Ready? Play.
Welcome back to another episode of Painting Lines. Last week we gave a preview on the next gen ATP finals, and this week we have the founder of Serve Club, a platform that allows tennis players and other racket sports players to connect with one another. Daniel Cline joining us. Welcome on, Daniel.
Hey, Eric. Hey, Aidan. Great to meet you and excited to be here. Great podcast.
Awesome, thank you. So before we jump into Serve Club, let's talk a little bit about your background. I know you have more of a tech background and you're an entrepreneur. So give us some of that, and then also would love to hear about your personal background and your experience with tennis.
Yeah, absolutely. So, personally, I started with tennis at an early age. I took tennis lessons on Long Island. I was on my high school tennis team. I actually dislocated my knee, not playing tennis, but doing something else. And it pretty much took me out of the sport for a long, long time. And I actually just got back into it as of late. But huge fan of the sport, been following it my entire life. Started getting really into pickleball and watching some of the games on TV. So I enjoy pickleball as well, though I haven't played as much pickleball as tennis. But career-wise, it's funny. I didn't really start in technology. I started in the restaurant industry. I went to hospitality school. My entire plan was to go own a restaurant one day and be the chef. And worked all around the restaurant from server all the way up to general manager. And when I graduated from college, I worked in a hotel and I actually started a social network called enight.com. Don't bother looking it up, it's not around anymore. But basically, it was a social network to connect nightlife venues, restaurants with the people that want to go there. But think of it as like Facebook meets City Search, which was a hot website back then. I don't know how old you guys are. You might not even know what City Search is, but uh, I was loved social networks. Funny quick story. When I was in college, me and my buddy were in an entrepreneurship class. This was Facebook just came out. We reached out to Mark Zuckerberg. We actually got a response, and he offered us an investment opportunity.
Oh,
We went to our parents to buy in, and they were like, "I don't know." So ever since then, I was like, I need $1 billion social network idea. But so I worked in hospitality. I started this social network. It didn't really take off. And then like 2008 hit and we were trying to raise money and couldn't really get any investors at that time. So I just kept on working in hospitality. I worked in real estate as well. And then I was recruited by WeWork and I was an early employee at WeWork. And I was there and I was part of the project to roll out their online intranet, their social network. So that was my second social network I rolled out. And then after spending some time at WeWork, I decided to get into software sales, start making, 3 times the salary I was making WeWork. Um, so I got into software sales, and that's what I've been pretty much doing ever since. And then, the third social network I started was for my alumni network, Cornell. They asked me to help out coming up with the social network, and I came up with a platform called the Lobby, which is what they use today to connect all their alumni. So that was the third social network. And I was like, okay, I got to do one more for industry and sport I'm passionate about and in an area that I feel like is a lot of need. So this is probably going to be, I don't want to say my last, but I'm hoping that is my last and biggest social network, which is Serve Club. So just
nice.
a little
Thanks for
bit about
that.
my background. Yeah.
Totally. And actually, funny enough, Aiden and I are both Cornell alums too. So go Big Red.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go
Yeah,
Big
you
Red.
got to join the lobby, I guess.
Yeah, right.
How to get on the lobby, of course.
Yeah,
Everyone's
we weren't in the hospitality school though.
okay,
Oh,
okay. Oh well, you got to be part of that circle if you're to get in the lobby. It's
oh
exclusive.
man. Yeah, I know you guys, it's very exclusive. It's like its own little high school, huh?
Right, right.
The hotel prom. But anyway, we digress. So, all right, thanks for the background. That was very informative. Just gonna start at a very high level. Like what is Serve Club? Because I know there's some certain capabilities like swiping, but why don't you just give us and the listeners kind of the full rundown?
Sure. So, Serve Club, it's a digital platform. Simply, we're here to connect players with coaches, and eventually we're going to incorporate clubs. So we look at it as a three-sided marketplace. We want to make it easier for players to find other players at the same skill level, rating, and also with the same availability. So we have some advanced tools that connect you based on, your Google Calendar that you can integrate. Then on the coaches side, we're giving coaches tools to manage their business better. So instead of sending out like emails and text messages to all your clients, trying to get them to come to, events like Point Play and other things that they're doing, we want to make it really easy and streamlined for coaches to manage their business. We also have integrations with Stripe so they can receive money and get payouts through the system. And eventually we want to get into the club side and allow players and coaches to book courts. So we effectively kind of building like the Uber meets Class Pass for the racket sports industry. And yeah, we just want to make it a seamless process for people to overcome the hurdles that people have today, which is kind of odd. It's kind of odd that it's hard to find someone to hit with. Like if you want to go to a gym or you want to find anything else, it's pretty easy. But with like playing tennis and other racket sports, it's kind of hard if unless you have a group that you already work with and they're play with and they're always available. It's just, for young professionals like myself, I want to go hit tomorrow or in an hour or two. How could I just quickly do that in a seamless way? So that's what Serve Club is aiming to solve for.
Yeah, I
100%.
hear you there, man. It is tough. I live in New York City and it is almost impossible to try to find people to play. I've done Live Ball Club. I don't know if you've heard of that, but they're pretty big in LA, Miami, and New York. And yeah, same kind of concept. It's not an app, but it's a website with an email newsletter where you can just sign up. I think it's like 10 to 12 spots, and they have different parks.
Yeah, yeah.
So speaking on something like that, how do you separate yourself from other apps that are kind of in a similar vein, trying to uh, connect players to other people to hit with?
Yeah, so there's been like definitely other apps that have attempted this. There's been like the other Friendsters, and we're trying to be the Facebook, the one that nails it. But I think with the popularity of the sports now, what we're seeing is that it's so popular, but the technology has just stayed very flat over the years and very minimal, kind of archaic. So a lot of the apps just and websites have come in at the wrong time and with like the wrong feature sets. And I think now is the time to deliver something that really kind of is attuned to what tech is supposed to be. So we're trying to be like this, like I mentioned, Uber meets ClassPass, and really focusing on tools that just solve those basic problems. And what you really need, and what I think a lot of companies kind of miss, is just having this three-sided marketplace where you got coaches, players, and clubs. And it's honestly really difficult. We haven't, cracked the code yet. We made a lot of progress on player-to-player connectivity. We're introducing new features on the coaches side at the end of this year. But the big piece is getting clubs on board as well, and kind of having some sort of unified connectivity amongst all the clubs because they all have property management systems, but there's no intermediary in between those property management systems or those club management systems per se. So just kind of finding that special sauce from a tech standpoint and really kind of honing in on it, I think is something that's been missed. And I think now we're well positioned for that in this day and age and with what we're building.
Hmm.
Nice. Yeah, I like the three pronged approach. So with the clubs, are these private clubs that you're partnering with, or are they mostly public?
So mostly private. When you say public, I'm thinking like municipal parks and stuff like that. Uh,
Yeah.
there's private clubs that are privately owned. They can either be completely membership based, where you have to have a membership to be
Mhm.
there, or they're just kind of open to people just coming in and booking appointments. We want to try and solve for all those. So we're going to cater towards all of them. It takes a lot of work, obviously, to try and work with all of them, but I'd say that middle one, the private but open to the public piece, is the sweet spot that we're going after.
Definitely. And I know you're a tech company, I guess for lack of a better
Yeah.
word, but do you see yourself getting into development and actually developing a serve club, like a brick and mortar country club?
Oh, that's a great question. So I've actually had that in prior investor decks and pitches, and I've been told like stay in your lane, don't branch out. But look, when we built Serve Club, it was all about building a brand, a persona that people will be really attracted to. That's modern, sexy. So we definitely see like the potential for that brand extending beyond technology. It could go into apparel, which is an area that we're going to look at in 2025 and leveraging our logo and our vibe in gear. But in terms of brick and mortar, absolutely. I mean, I used to work in the restaurant industry, so the franchise model is in my head, and
Huh?
I covered the franchise space when I used to work in as an analyst at a real estate company. And one of the things I learned about the franchise business, it could be tremendously successful. And there's absolutely no well, I shouldn't say there's absolutely no, because they're just springing up everywhere the last couple of years. But definitely potentially in our future, we can have Serve Club branded locations. Although I don't want to compete with any of our clients, so we got to be careful with it.
Mm. Have you guys considered integrating like a UTR system for matching players to each other?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been working on is our API and integrations platform. So something we'll be rolling out next year is integrations with potentially the USDA for NTRP, UTR potentially, Duber on the pickleball side, and Red Padel on the Padel side. So 100%. I mean, one of the biggest things that people are concerned about when meeting kind of strangers and going to play with them is, are they good enough to play with me, or are they too good for me to be playing with them? So trying to find the perfect balance of rating and also availability is something that our algorithms kind of built for. Now we're just looking towards integrations in 2025. So definitely on the roadmap, 100%.
Got it. Yeah, I can definitely resonate with that. I remember one of my first times because I used to use Play My Court, and I found this guy. I was in the 3-5 section, and this guy must have been a 2-5. And he was trying to, and he was like, dude, you must be a 4-5. Why are you playing down this? I'm like, no, he clearly didn't know how the rating system worked. But yeah, so how does the algorithm work for finding players? Like, is it strictly location based, or could you potentially match up with someone in a different state? Like, do you have a radius of how many miles it goes out?
Sure. So our algorithm prioritize your matches based on three things. So geography, we want to get people as close to you as possible. The second thing is rating, so similar rating. The third piece is availability. So we're rolling out some new features with Google Calendar Sync, and you can also manually add your availability. So we'll try to match you and suggest times that someone that's nearby, same rating, same availability, is right there at your fingertips to go play with. So we just want to kind of make that as seamless as possible. And the cool thing about our platform is we're nationwide, we're actually global, so you can download our app anywhere. So our hopes is that when you travel, you're not just going to like the hotel gym. You may like open up the app and like, oh, there's a point play, or there's a player that's, my same rating and have same availability, and you go play when you travel for work or for pleasure. So we want to make that kind of like, you can bring your racket wherever you go now and be ready to play, no matter what your location is.
Yeah, it's awesome that tennis is such an international and global sport too, so you can always connect with people there.
Sure.
So let's back up a bit. What was the inspiration behind creating this? Like, how'd you get the idea, and what did you do to put forward?
Yeah, so my partner and I, we generated this idea really just from, speaking to people in the industry. We had some friends that played and some coaches that play, and just kind of socializing with them and hearing about some of their struggles. And we're like, okay, there's a big problem out there. The sports are blowing up, and we're seeing like the rise of pickleball and padel coming from Europe into the US, and just seeing all the opportunity. And then we started digging into more about like how people kind of book courts, how clubs sometimes struggle to like fill up with very high occupancy levels. And me coming from the hotel industry, I have experience with the OTAs like Expedia and Priceline, and I really understand that model really well. And I'm like, what if we can apply some of the things from the hotel industry to the racket sports space? So, you know, what we realized is there's really no intermediary anywhere in the space to make things kind of bookable across multiple clubs that have different club management systems. So that was really the sort of desire to not only solve the problem for players and coaches, but then also looking towards the club industry and how we can solve their problems as well. And then we just kind of realized, wow, this is all pretty much connected. So that really drove us to say, okay, this is something, let's go after it.
Nice. And I'm always interested in the entrepreneurial side of things. So, like when you had this idea, what was the process of it becoming an idea to an actual company? Like, did you quit your job? Did you do both kind of side by side? And then it got to a point where Serve Club was taking on all this time of yours? And like, what was that process of raising money?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, being an entrepreneur is really, really tough. I kept and still have, full-time work pretty much. I have clients that I work with. So, the balance is a challenge, but we make it work. So, what we did was we started out with a prototype, low cost prototype, and we took that, got some feedback, iterated on it, and then we rolled out an actual iOS and Android app, which took about 3, 4 months after the prototype. And then from there, just getting more feedback from the market. In terms of raising money, we decided not to really try to raise money until we had something in the market and gaining a bit of traction,
Mhm.
just to get a higher valuation. So we're at the point now where we've gotten a lot of traction. We're feeling really good about where we're at. We're actually starting to raise our first round. So that's
Wow.
something we're hoping to close next year. But right now it's been bootstrap. But
Yeah, congrats.
definitely, yeah, yeah. Thanks.
Cool. So, what cities have you seen the most activity in so far? Like, have you guys been tracking that data? Where are people the most active?
Yeah, so really the way that we can respond to that is just based on where we've been promoting because we started out focusing in the tri-state area and we launched like in the spring of this year, going into the summer. So we launched in New York City, Long Island, Connecticut, Westchester, and we got some solid traction. A lot of people signing up, especially in New York City. But what we've kind of realized that with such low availability of courts in New York City, it's just still always going to be difficult to find
Mhm.
like
Yep.
ways to play tennis in New York City. So although there's a lot of people that want to play, it's just hard to kind of facilitate. So then we started looking as we got into the fall and warmer weather places, like southern Florida, Texas, so like Austin, Houston, Dallas, California. Markets like southern Florida is like probably one of the biggest markets for tennis,
Mhm. Yeah.
even just from a professional standpoint. A lot of the professional players train down there. And so it's also a lot of saturated. Some of our competitors are down there and they spend a lot of time and money in Southern Florida. So we've spent the last 6 months mostly in California. So LA is probably our biggest market right now where we see the most amount of activity.
Yeah, I feel like the LA market is very cool too because you have a lot of I want to say like tennis influencers almost who spend time down there. It's obviously very beautiful, so people get kind of the best of both worlds. Like you have that modern chic like country club spin on tennis.
I think also
Right.
is Tennis Channel, I believe, is based in Santa Monica.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a big culture. There's a lot of courts there, a lot of coaches, a lot of money, obviously. So people, um, love playing the sport there. And our brand is kind of doing well there. I think people kind of like the vibe of it when they see it. They're like, oh, it's like the Raya, which is like a
Mhm.
super popular dating app. It's like
Oh
the Raya
yeah, Aiden
rackets.
knows
Like,
Raya
oh,
well.
yeah, oh, maybe I'll meet a celebrity out here. So, yeah, so we like LA. We also like the Bay Area as well.
Hmm.
Actually, we have some coaches that work for us as on the development side for coach development that are based in the Napa area. So, the Bay Area is also a rising area for us.
Yeah,
Nice.
the two places I'm from, it's succeeding. I'm originally from Napa, and now I live in Santa Monica. So,
Oh, nice,
yeah.
nice. Yeah,
Just
we have some colleagues over that work over at the Silverado Ranch.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
follow Aiden for your next market. Wherever he moves, that's where
Yeah,
tennis
I
goes
know,
on.
right? The golden goose
exactly.
over here.
But funny story about Raya. So do you know Holger Rune, the ATP player?
Yeah.
He got exposed. There was a picture on Twitter or X of his Raya profile of him on there, and that's the whole point of Raya, not to be able to take screenshots and like very exclusive. So
Right.
Not
Oh,
so exclusive, apparently.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was actually it wasn't even a screenshot. It was a picture of someone else's phone with his profile, and I think his bio is something like, "Yeah, I play professional tennis."
yikes, yikes. Yep.
Yeah.
You got to be
Um,
careful, right?
yeah, yeah, I know. So this is a tennis podcast, so we do focus on tennis most of the time, but I know Serve Club they cater to other racket sports too, like pickleball, padel. What are you seeing? Which one of these sports is gaining the most traction? Is it tennis? Is it pickle, padel?
So I think Padel is just huge. Like I'm talking to people in private equity that are buying up real estate for Padel courts, and I just think that exponentially speaking, Padel will probably have like the biggest sort of hockey stick growth over the next like 3 to 5 years. I mean, pickleball's kind of already landed, and a
Mhm.
lot of real estate has already been dedicated towards it. But Padel, there's a tons of inventory that's going to be coming online next year, and it's becoming hugely popular. I mean, there's reserve padel in hot areas like New York City and Miami, and just people really like it. I mean, I'm a tennis player, but if I had to choose between pickleball and padel, sorry, pickleball players, padel is just is a bit more akin to tennis with like the ball and the athleticism. Not to say pickleball is not athletic, it's just it gives me that same vibe, and I love hitting against the wall. That's
Yeah.
pretty. Watching on TV is a lot of fun. So I'd say Padel is the one to watch. Pickleball is landed. Tennis is obviously tennis and is a massive sport. I still think is the number one sport right now
Mhm.
out of those three. But yeah, it's just exciting for the racket sports industry as a whole because you can kind of swap in and out. Like if you're a tennis player, you can go play Padel or you pickleball and vice versa. So it's just exciting to see that it's just all three sports are just gaining so much traction in the US.
Yeah, we have had a couple guys on the podcast before that were college players, and they play a lot of padel now. But their only gripe is that it's just really expensive with those courts
Yeah.
because most of the padel courts are like only at very exclusive kind of clubs where reserving a court becomes a big barrier to entry.
Yeah, I mean, you can't convert a tennis court into a padel court, but you can convert a tennis court into a pickleball court. So you have a lot more flexibility with pickleball. I've seen in like parks in Brooklyn just kind of, sprung up courts out of nowhere, and but like padel, it's just harder to replicate on your own. So you need to go to these clubs. So yeah, it's definitely more expensive, but hopefully as inventory goes up, we'll see a bit more stabilization on the price point.
100%.
To Aiden's point, I mean, I would love to play padel, but yeah, reserve in New York City is like 300-400 bucks an hour, and then there's Padel House in Brooklyn, which I don't think it's that expensive, but it's either always booked or not as easy to get to for me. So I'm dying to get out there because I do think I would enjoy it. And Aiden, remember we went and watched that pro
Yeah.
tournament?
Yeah, I think that was at the place in
That was
Brooklyn.
at Padel House, yeah, in Brooklyn. But I heard Gael Monfils, I think he entered a Padel tournament one time without ever playing Padel and he won it.
Well, I mean, he's
Yeah,
also a freak athlete, so
right, right. Uh, but
one more question kind of about the coaching aspect. How
uh,
how does that work where do you match it up based on like the player's skill level as well there? Is it like you have coaches that are set up to match with players that are like advanced versus like beginners?
Right, that's a great question. So the way that we have it set up is that when they create a lesson or an event being kind of like a live bowl or point play where you have, let's say more than two, three players, sometimes up to seven players being trained at once, we make those events and lessons rating specific. So coaches tend to vary based on ratings and what they are willing to coach. But the key thing is that we want to make sure those groupings of people are of the same rating. So that's the key part. It's just making sure that if you're going to join an event that has other players in it, that they're all sort of similar ratings. So it's not so much like coach to player rating. It's more so what that actual event is looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
so I have a kind of a fun question for you here. Because I know this was fun for for Aiden and me when we were deciding, but what other names were you thinking of other than Serve Club? Like, what was that process? I'm sure you had others and you guys agreed, all right, this is the one.
So we worked with a great digital marketing agency called Carta Creatives, and they helped us with all the naming and branding. The original name, one of the prototype was Court Buddy, but
Mm,
we actually found out that a law firm owned the pat or trademarked to Court Buddy because I guess for courts, and they were trying to do something. Although they were completely inactive with it, I did reach out and never got a response. So we started to pivot to other things, and then. Well, he's just landed on Serve Club. I mean, at first the brand was meant to be sort of this collegiate, preppy vibe, but we kind of moved away to be a bit more broader and just more kind of modern looking brand. Um, and one of the things that was a challenge for us with the naming is like the club piece, because we don't want people to think like we're an actual club that you can go to.
mhm.
At the end of the day, it's kind of like a virtual club. So we landed on Serve Club and we actually got the trademark on it. So yeah, we're locked in on Serve Club. And yeah, I mean, one day if we go unicorn status, I'll put up on Medium the original naming decks that we have with all the other names. I can't even recall the ones that were presented to us.
There you go. That's fun. Yeah, the marketing agency did a great job because that's really what got my attention. That's how we got connected. I was on Instagram and I saw one of the videos, like the original videos, and it was super, super sleek.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
Hmm.
Yeah, we've invested a lot in the brand. The brand is important to us, the aesthetic. I mean, we're thinking about you work in the restaurant biz, right, Eric, or have experience with
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
aesthetic of
just salad.
the aesthetic of the brand is super important. That's another thing. We have other competitors out there. Um, I won't name them by name, but they have kind of what I would call like Windows 98 looking logos. And I'm like, oh, that's not cool. We want to just be a cool, sleek, modern brand, and that was always important for us.
Definitely. So what are your future plans for Serve Club? Are there any new features that you're going to be rolling out? Any new functionalities?
Yeah, so what I'm most excited for is within our app, you can switch between different modes. So when you start, you're a player, you're in player mode, and then you can go to the manage screen and then you can switch to coach mode. And we're rolling out a whole new feature set interface specific for coaches to manage their business. So right now, like coaches will text message, WhatsApp a large group of people, like, "Hey, does anyone want to do this point play tomorrow too?" And like, everyone's except for the three people that actually do it are like, "Oh,
Yeah.
another text message." So this mode will streamline communications, streamline the subbing in and out of players. So if you have to cancel, someone could just jump back in. Streamlining the availability for coaches to take on new clients, making lead generation for new clients a lot easier for coaches. So if a player signs up and they say, I'm interested in coaching, that player will be placed right into that coach nearbys inbox and you can start communicating with them. We're going to eventually build out some AI features to automate the conversation for you. And then payments, managing all the payments. Right now, if you're a private coach, you got to chase people down for like a Venmo payment or getting the cash. And if they forget, just keeping track of all of it. So we have this reservation tab where you can reserve, submit kind of like a soft booking. And then like once the event's completed, then the money's transferred to the coach. And we have a Stripe integration. So they'll be able to just pay out that money right into their Stripe account. So just building out these feature sets for coaches, it's kind of like we're going B to B to C. I
Mhm.
think will be a game changer for us and really helping support those coaches out there. And then the next big thing is getting into the club biz, which we're really, really excited for.
Nice. Yeah, sounds like some exciting things going on there. Another feature I like a lot about the app is the like achievement and awards section. So I was just wondering, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, is it all self-reported or how does that work?
Yeah, so uh, in an effort to try and gamify the system and create a little bit of stickiness, what we want to do is allow players to instead of like reviewing them like 1 through 5 stars or saying if they were like good or bad, we
Hmm.
want to just be more positive and allow them to award them with a badge. So we have this badge system where you can get like perfect serve or all-star volley, and there's like 10 or 15 different badges that you can get awarded based on what you do on the court. And the idea is that the person that you play with can award that badge to you. And if you get a certain number of like nominations, you'll eventually get that badge. So it's a bit tough to get, but if you play enough, you'll get those badges. And we hope that that will be sort of that gamification, one of a few gamification elements that we're incorporating to the app, that hopefully will create some stickiness and get people to get like, oh gosh, I got to get that badge. So that was the idea behind it, and yeah, it's a cool feature and people love it.
Love it. Love it. All right. So what's your favorite tennis memory, or moment if you've had one?
Oh, definitely going to the U.S. Open when I was a kid in the 90s and watching Pete Sampras play. That was
Nice.
definitely one of my top moments. Can't remember who he played, but it was awesome. And just seeing him, he became like my favorite player. Up until then, I think when I saw Roddick play in the US Open, not when he won, but definitely went to one of his matches, and that was pretty thrilling to see. I think I saw like my first like 130-mile-plus-hour serve, and I was like, whoa. I mean, now that occurs all the time, but back then it's like in basketball shooting threes. It never happens, but now it happens all the time. So I think that was pretty impressive. I also went to
Yeah.
Wimbledon once, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's electric. That's still Wimbledon's still on my bucket list, but I got my Honeydew cup right here.
There you
Figured
go.
it's
Gotta
only
get the
fitting.
honeydews.
Yeah, exactly. Got all the winners on here. Let's see. Yeah, Sampras. Phew. So you were probably there. Yeah, he's pretty dominant early 2000s, 90s.
Yeah, he was the man. I mean, that was
Hmm.
like the Federer of the of the 90s.
Do you have any advice for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Oh wow. Um, really try to stay true to the problem you're trying to solve. If you really, really find a problem that has just not been solved yet, hone in on that problem, make that your North Star mission and stay true to that. And everything you do should be focused around solving that problem. I'm talking like the big problem that your product or service is trying to solve for. Just really kind of hone in on that and build around that problem. And the other thing is be customer obsessed. Like, I mean, I think Bezos has been recorded a million times saying this is like absolute customer obsession is so important in creating a brand, an experience, a service that puts the customer at the center of everything. If you kind of do those two things, you'll have a good chance of success.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. Well, appreciate the time for you coming on. And last thing, where could people find Served on social media?
Serve Club could be founded Serve Club at the Instagram or serveclub.com, our website, and you can find us on both iOS and Android. Serve Club.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining. That was great. I think I'll probably go sign up for it now that I know that it's popular in LA.
Let's go.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
for it.
All
All
right,
right.
let's catch up soon. Have a great holiday, all right?
Yeah, sounds good. Bye.
All righty, and that wraps up our interview with Daniel. So let's just hop right into segments. You ready, Eric?
Yeah, let's do it. Hey guys, before we jump in, we have some exciting news. We recently partnered with TruePro. They're a great place to buy strings, grips, and tennis apparel. Use discount code Painting Lines, that's one word, for 20% off store wide. You can find the link in our bio.
All righty, what's new in tennis? What did you see this week?
So I saw that they came out with the like basically the economics of the next gen finals prize money. So I wanted to break it down for you guys. So each player just gets 150K right off the bat just for making the tournament and appearing. Next level would be each group stage win is worth 36,660, and then a semifinal win is worth 113,500. Final win is worth 153,000. And if you go undefeated and win the finals, you get 526,480. And if you look at this in the grand scheme of things, like compared to the other or like the real ATP finals, I should say, it's pretty minuscule considering the winner of the ATP finals gets 2.2 mil. But I think it's still a significant sum of money, especially for the guys who haven't really played on tour yet. You know, like I know Feast, I think he netted over $1 million this year, but other guys like Lerner Tien, who hasn't played a tour match, this is big money.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of these guys, like especially like if you look at the bottom four, because we kind of talked about how it was separated with the top four guys being like in the top 50 and then the bottom four being outside the top 100. Those bottom four guys, this is like doubling their money for the year in terms of prize money. So obviously massive to make the appearance. And also, even when you look at this, like for someone like Feast, like 150 grand is not nothing for just appearing. So
Yeah.
when you look at like oh, why did he decide to play? Just having that money incentive is pretty big.
Yeah, totally. And you know Carousel, right? The like I want to say tennis content creator who's I think 30 and he just turned pro last year. But anyway, he did a video on his breakdown of how much money he made this year and he's ranked I want to say number 258th and his total revenue this year or his profit was negative 12,000. So like
258th.
yeah.
Oh, isn't that just outside of the thing we were talking about? What is it called? The that net that they have. Uh,
Yes. Yes, that Alafia was telling us, right?
yeah, Alafi was talking to us about, and it's like the ATP net that's like, oh, if you're
Mhm.
in the top 250, you get this amount of money guaranteed.
Yeah, I know. I'm blanking as well, but I thought it was funny because I think he made 26,000 in prize money and obviously had other expenses too. So just his end of the year, he ended up negative.
Yeah, I think it comes down to like the only guys that can really survive on the tour outside of that level is either if you're making like shocking runs like in certain tournaments, or if you have a decent sponsor that gives you a
Hmm.
decent amount of money.
Totally. So what about you? What did you see this week?
Uh, I saw kind of that two of the big headlines are coming together in Brisbane later this month. We have obviously Kyrgios' return, which we talked about, and Djokovic debuting with Murray as his coach. Both of those were big headlines we already talked about. But the new part is that they're going to be playing doubles together. Uh,
What?
so that was actually kind of funny because last year when Kyrgios was commentating at the Australian Open, uh, Djokovic was like, "Yeah, Kyrgios, come back and we can play doubles together." And now he's like fulfilling that promise. So cool to see that. But also, I wonder how they'll do because obviously Kyrgios is a very good doubles player. I believe he's won a Grand Slam in doubles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wonder how they'll do as a team.
That is too funny. Jeez. Yeah, he actually won the Australian Open with
Kokonakis.
yeah, Kokonakis. Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting. All right, how about bet of the week?
Yeah, the return of bet of the week with the next gen finals here. I'm going with a little bit of a weird one, but I'm going with Feast defeating Fonseca 3-1 at plus 225 odds. Uh, I think Fields is the heavy favorite here. Obviously, he's top 20 in the world. Fonseca was the number 8 guy, last guy to qualify. But Fonseca does have a very explosive game. I think it's especially shown in a lot of his highlights. And I think that could give him a chance to get a break. And in a shortened sets, because obviously this format is best 3 out of 5 sets, but the sets are only first to 4 games. So
Mhm.
if you can get a break quickly, you can take a set probably much more with a higher likelihood, let's say. So I think he may be able to convert into winning one of the mini sets there, but I don't think he'll actually be able to keep it up and necessarily keep it close with Feast. And I also think the court favors Feast, given the fact that he's done really well on indoor hard courts, whereas Fonseca had his obviously massive success on clay courts.
Yeah, that's such a caveat, the sets of 4 games, because I knew it was there was something about it. I didn't know that it was it's called a pro set or
No, pro set is
pro sets to
eight
8.
games. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. But yeah, no, I like that bet. I think Feast does excel on indoor hard, so I might ride that with you.
Hmm. What about you? What'd you go for?
I went with Mensick to win 3-0 against Lerner Tien at plus 200. No disrespect to Lerner, but I just think they're on totally different playing fields right now. I mean, Mensik has not only competed with the best of the best, but he's also been relatively successful. Whereas Lerner's completely untried. I don't think he's ready yet. I don't think he's on the same level. But hopefully I'm wrong, just not in this case. I would like to see Lerner do well in this tournament, but I don't think he'll get a set off Mensik.
Yeah, I agree that I think Lerner isn't as battle tested to say, but I don't know. I don't know. The 3-0 is tough. Like I said, it's just because of the format. Getting a 3-0 may be more difficult because it essentially means you have to not get broken in any of these games. And I think on an indoor hard court, it can sometimes make it easier to hold your serve if you have a really great serve, and not that Mensik doesn't, but I do think that there's a chance that Lerner can surprise him at least in one of the sets.
Yeah. I mean, the overall odds just to win straight up is minus 300. So I will be taking that, but I feel like the 3-0 just adds a little juice.
100%. And then obviously no match of the week this week. We'll actually have one though next week because this will be after the finals are done.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some good matches.
100%.
All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.